parlato troppo.
Mille grazie. Allora diamo la parola al dottor Michael Shank, che ha già preso diverse iniziative per la promozione di questi eventi e quindi è un po' incaricato dal cancelliere di seguire i rapporti con la stampa, e allora chiediamo a lui che ci presenti un po' l'evento e le forme di comunicazione che sono previste anche al vostro servizio. Thank you.
Good morning. It's nice to be back in touch with some of you. I was here on April 28th for the meeting that PAS hosted with the Pope and the Secretary General and Jeffrey Sachs to talk about very similar issues. So I'd like to thank the PAS team for bringing me back to help with media this time around. I'd like to give you some context for my conversations with the mayors, where they're at, why their attendance is important, and how I'll be working with them in the next week to make sure this event is a success. So I teach at George Mason University at the School for Conflict Analysis and Resolution. I teach classes on communications and policy, the intent to improve policymakers' ability to talk about these issues, whether it's social exploitation or environmental exploitation. So I'm trying to help the mayors communicate to their constituencies and voters why these two social and climate crises are critical to their voting public, and why the mayors are especially well positioned to deal with issues of social human exploitation as well as environmental exploitation. You have the list of the mayors attending. I'd like to, if you'll permit me, read 1, 2, 3 quotes, because I think it's important to set the stage for what we're dealing with. He is not a mayor, but California Governor Brown will be here. His quote is as follows, and you'll receive this, but again, I just want to read a few as a teaser. In the spirit of the Pope's encyclical, this unprecedented gathering of global leaders is a wake-up call to face up to the common threats of climate change and human exploitation. This is about the future of humanity and how we as human beings live and treat one another in the natural world around us. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo, whom, as you may know, on December 4th announced with Mike Bloomberg that pre-COP, pre-Paris climate talks, she's going to bring several hundred mayors there on December 4th to talk about these same issues. She says, modern slavery and climate disruption are two major and intertwined issues for our capital cities. We shall face these challenges collectively, engaging the political and spiritual forces of our local communities. Rio Mayor says, Pope Francis has been an example of inspiring leadership, and I commend His Holiness for placing the urgent matter of sustainability in the center of the universal discussion. By 2050, more than 2/3 of the world's population is expected to live in cities. So to stimulate urban sustainability is key to contain consumption of natural resources while diminishing the impacts of climate change on people's daily lives and social conditions. C40 cities have the potential to reduce their annual cumulative greenhouse gas emissions by 1 billion tons by 2020, which shows that together and coordinated, leaders have the power to protect the cities, our common home. And lastly, the UK Independent Anti-Slavery Commissioner Kevin Hyland says, climate change is dramatically increasing the frequency and severity of natural disasters around the world. This, in turn, is contributing to the ever-increasing displacement of vulnerable people, many of whom have become easy targets for human traffickers. The reemergence of slavery is one of the biggest challenges of our lifetime, and we crucially need a post-2015 UN development agenda that locates the fight against modern slavery at the heart of both humanitarian response efforts and the strategy to promote sustainable and long-term development. Pope Francis and the Pontifical Academies are giving us the leadership and moral authority to realize this essential objective. So there are a few of the quotes. We have several dozen. Those will be issued to you shortly. I just want to note that there's incredible excitement among the mayors. They're very excited, perhaps obviously, to meet the Pope, but most importantly, to be bolstered by his endorsement of their work so that then when they return to the cities, hopefully with a picture with the Pope, a conversation with the Pope, they are newly emboldened to do what they already want to do on these social and climate crises. They see this event as critical in that effort. Obviously, the quote from the UK Anti-Slavery Commissioner and others noted that this is where urban population is trending, this is where global population is trending, but it's also where greenhouse gas emissions are coming from. The large majority of GHGs are coming from the cities. And these issues are intertwined. The objectification of people and the objectification of the planet. For those of you who don't know, there's a history of action already among mayors. If you look up the Urban Sustainability Directors Network, they are already focusing on, and the Carbon Neutral Cities Alliance, already focusing on issues of social sustainability, economic sustainability, and environmental sustainability. They see these issues as intertwined. This is unprecedented. As Bishop Sanchez mentioned, this has never been done before. In the speech, he notes that the mayors coming together at the Vatican for this conversation is unprecedented in terms of number and scope and diversity. The timing of this meeting is particularly important. As you know, the SDGs will be ratified at the UN in September, taking action in 2016, being rolled out in 2016. This week in Addis Ababa, conversation about financing for development. So countries around the world, companies around the world are coming together to say, how do we pay for this work around social and environmental and economic sustainability? Climate talks at Paris, of course. The Lyon World Summit, I was there a couple weeks ago, where they brought together subnationals and non-state actors to talk about this. So the world is moving quickly in this direction. This is well-timed, and given the heat wave that seems to be descending on Rome, it's also well-timed for that reason. Additionally, this meeting is unique to many global meetings in that it's very practical. My sense is it's intended to be very practical. Actors who can move quickly on the ground with their constituencies and voters. Actors who are dealing with crises already. Take Rio as an example. Rio will be present, running out of water, the water crisis that climate change is impacting in Rio. And these actors are keen to work. These mayors are keen to get to work. The declarations coming out of these meetings will be useful for mayors to go back and say, I signed this, I'm keen to work, here are the next steps, we're committing to these concrete goals. These are people who want to do the work now, not committing to 2020, 2030 pledges. I'm thinking of some of the UNFCCC work around climate change and even the UN SDG work, which is often long-term. These are mayors getting to work now. In terms of event media, there will likely be a picture with the Pope. We do now have space that we didn't have before. We were going to be in the Casino Pio, as you know, and now we've moved to the main hall, so now we have plenty of space for media. And I'm expecting interviews with the mayors throughout both days. If you want to get in touch with any of the mayors directly now in advance, I'm happy to put you in touch with them if you don't already have their contact information. They're very keen to chat and start talking. You've seen some of the press out already. Thank you for your interest.
Mille grazie. Allora